So it
That was
depends
my
on the year.
benchmark. 11
And the
months by
dance.
film,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
the dance, and the book. Is there something to be said about you at this stage in your life?
I think I'm
You're writing, you're painting, you're dancing. I mean, you're going to be singing before long.
No, I think it's
Or playing.
being the witness of life. You've got to move to something new, and it's. I mean, it was like a snowball, you know. One came after the other, that came after the other, and I say the first daring was to say yes without thinking when she said, "You want to dance?" Because it was like, do you want to do the impossible? Do you want to imagine something new?
Yeah. Plus, there's this rule that I believe in. You will only regret the things that you say no to, not the things you say yes to.
That's beautiful.
You know? It's true. That's what you regret. You regret what you didn't do, not what you did. Correct?
Yeah.
What are you scared to do?
Still scared of loving.
Are you really? Because you've been hurt?
Really? How do you know that? I mean, you've got to be hurt somehow. I think there's, in the humiliation,
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
there's a humility you learn. And I think somehow it feels a little contradictory, but I think it very well goes together. The humiliation allows you to have the simplicity that requires a sort of a loving state, which is not about yourself, but about something else.
You have 2 children.
Yeah.
How old are they now?
9 and 16.
So they have their own active life now.
The big one, yeah.
16-year-old.
Yeah. It's very independent, very mature.
Are they with you?
Yeah.
So they travel with you?
But they see their fathers a lot as well.
He's in Paris?
Yeah.
But you're fearful of love.
You're trying to get there because I plunge into it very easily.
Exactly.
Very easily. And I would give everything. But I think there must be another way because it's not the...
You wouldn't give your art for love.
I don't think you can do that.
You don't think you can stop?
No, because life is about finding your task and giving what you've got to give in life. It's not about giving up what what your life.
Oh, it adds to it.
I think it's loving. It's about everything. It's accepting everything. It's not dividing.
But when you look at all the work that you have done across the spectrum of these things that we have talked about, do you think you work better when you're in love or when you're alone?
That's a good question. In a certain way, you work better when you're in love because you're more open.
I think so too.
You're more vulnerable and
alive.
And alive. But there's ways of loving a different way when you're not in love, that you're loving too, but on a different way, which is you can. I believe you can recreate everything, you know, with your heart and mind and sensate and body, and that's what we do as actors. You know, we have to recreate. But still, I think that. But you can fall in love with a lot of different people. It doesn't mean that you make love to them and you have a life with them or whatever. But there's a certain connection you can share on a certain level. But that there's the falling in love is in a place where it's where there's sparkles. So you want sparkles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's risk and danger.
Yeah.
But if you look at all the people you fall in love with, is there a kind of...
I can see you love the subject. I can see that because you go on with questions now.
Yes, indeed. And why not? Do all the men you've been in love with, are they alike, or have you been wildly different? Or have you had this sort of instinct to go for the same kind of...
It's an interesting question because I remember a man said to me, all the women I've been with is the same big woman.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could see, you know, this big woman lying down and being the same.
Yeah.
But I believe that actually, I feel like I've been with a lot of different men. But I think why we're going back to that place each time if you have to go back.
You say that as if you're exhausted
No,
thinking
because
about it.
I wish I had just one man in my life. You know, it would be resolving all the things, but it hasn't been like that, and that's the way it is.
Is that about you or about them?
It's about both. It's about both. But I'll take the responsibility. I can take the responsibility.
It's hard for you to have one man.
No, I'm very faithful when I'm in the
I'm not talking about fidelity. I'm talking fidelity of the heart, not fidelity of relationship. I'm not talking about the fidelity. In other words, it's not hard for you. You are not so curious, adventurous, self-directed that you could not be madly in love and faithful to. Trying to get out of this. I have no way to get out of this.
Don't you understand?
I don't either. So what's on the calendar?
No, but what I wanted to say actually, it's about, in a couple, is that you actually, why do we go back to it, is that it reaches an intimacy that it doesn't reach in another relationship where there's let's say, a physical relationship or intimate relationship. And I think that each time we go back to it, because there's a sort of interaction inside ourselves that we can only reach because of the other. That's really what I believe, because and it's actually more about being in touch with the depth of ourselves, or the hidden place of ourselves that we want so much to be with the other. Because I don't think that it's about the other. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's about your own. It's your own what?
It's because you get in touch with places you've never been in touch with before you met the person. So that's why it's unbearable sometimes. That's why it's so wonderful sometimes. That's why it's because you're reaching different spaces inside you, and but you want to reach, of course, a place where there's respect and then love. The respect is the most difficult, because you've got to be in touch with your emotions enough to analyze that when you can stop and when you can't, where's the limit?